I think they've already won the title. And I think Leverkusen's last chance to actually get back into this title race was the last time they played against each other. Leverkusen had 20 shots in that game. They dominated in possession of the ball. Yeah. Bayern didn't have a single shot on target in that game. But it ended up 0-0, right? And the table position doesn't lie. He has an identity. He wants them to play football in a specific way. Didn't work out at Burnley because he didn't have the players. But at Bayern Munich, as they're trying to once again compete for the title, the Bundesliga title, which is the most important title for them. Forget the Champions League. He's got to be Meister in Germany once again. They're on their way to doing that, and it's because of this style. They've not been at their best, but they're sticking to their identity, and it's the identity that Vincent Kompany has introduced to this Bayern Munich side. It's actually fun to watch.
Yeah, it's great analysis, as always. It was sort of 6 or 7 months into the Vincent Kompany project. If you'd offered him where Bayern are, in terms of league position, how they're getting on in the Champions League and the way that they're playing when he started the job, do you think he would have taken it 6 or 7 months in, where they are now?
Yeah, listen, they have to win the German title. That is the utmost importance to everyone at Bayern Munich Football Club. They've got to be the champion of Germany. It's FC Hollywood for a reason, and the disappointment from last year was down to the success of Xabi Alonso, and actually it was many years in the making. The season before that, when Musiala scored a last-minute winning goal against Cologne to win the title and Dortmund fluffed it up, you got lucky there. And then they didn't get lucky because Xabi Alonso got it right that next season, and they were unbelievable, undefeated throughout the campaign. And it was always going to be difficult for Bayern to be champion again because they needed to improve on the sidelines. I think they did that with Vincent Kompany. It's a surprise decision, but they did that with Kompany because he's young and he's hungry. But they've also given him some great pieces. They kept the majority of the squad. They've tried to improve defensively. The stats simply tell us that they've improved defensively, but as I've tried to show you there, sometimes it can go wrong for them. It did so against Celtic, obviously, in the Champions League. They got lucky, but against bigger teams, better teams, you won't get lucky. Now, they've got to find a way to get past this Leverkusen side. It's not been easy for them of late.
That's the Kompany project up till now, but in terms of the future, who are the building blocks in this team that Kompany's going to be trying to build an even better team around?
Well, they've just recently announced the signing of Musiala to a long-term contract. Therefore, you've got to buy around him. Alphonso Davies, another youngster on the left-hand side, rumoured to be going to Real Madrid. You've given him a long-term contract. So there's youngsters there that you want to build around. I think Kim's come in and actually done an OK job. We know he can be excellent. He showed us at Napoli how good he really can be. He's not been that player at Bayern Munich just yet, but he will get there, especially with Vincent Kompany helping him. There's an interesting one with, obviously, Goretzka replacing, and you saw him on my tactical right there. He replaced Joshua Kimmich just ahead of half-time against Eintracht Frankfurt at the weekend. And the news was breaking out that Joshua Kimmich's been offered a contract and it's now been rescinded, been taken away. And it was a big contract. There was a pay rise. It was over 20 million euros that they offered him per season. And now they've taken it back. And I think it's a bit of a poker play for them because they want to show who's in charge here. I think they better be very careful because Kimmich could be a very important piece of what Kompany's trying to build because of his honesty, because of the player he is, the experience that he's got, and his connection with a lot of these young players. He's an outstanding player. To replace him will cost them a lot. Palhinha's not necessarily worked out for them. Goretzka's probably not that guy either. I'm concerned what happens with Kimmich, potentially on his way to Barcelona for me, and I thought that was going to be the case, but this is surprising news to me.
If they get 3 points against Stuttgart on Friday, that puts them 11 points clear of Leverkusen, at least for the time being, in the terms of the title race. And obviously with that Champions League game looming next week, do you think it helps them because they can kind of say, well, we've basically won the title, now we can just focus on the Champions League?
Yeah, I think they've already won the title. And I think Leverkusen's last chance to actually get back into this title race was the last time they played against each other. Leverkusen had 20 shots in that game. They dominated in possession of the ball. Bayern didn't have a single shot on target in that game. But it ended up 0-0, right? And the table position doesn't lie. Bayern have got such a point gap now, I just don't see them messing it up. So they can focus now on that Champions League tie and really getting it right. It's been a problem, and I mentioned it a moment ago. For Bayern Munich to have success against Xabi Alonso's Leverkusen, in 6 attempts at him, they haven't beaten Xabi Alonso's Leverkusen, which is absolutely crazy to me. Across multiple competitions, that you haven't found a way to beat that team. And I was really surprised that Bayern were so defensive-minded against Leverkusen at the Bayer Arena. I expect to see a bit of a different performance. Yes, you don't want to lose that game. But if you go back in with a similar performance against that Leverkusen at the Bayer Arena, especially in that second leg, you could concede 4 or 5 goals if you catch Xabi Alonso's side on their day. They've got players who are performing very well right now. We all know, obviously, with Schick up top, obviously, he's the goal scorer right now, and he's doing a great job for them. He's such a dangerous player, and he's got a point to prove. But Florian Wirtz is the key playmaker for them, and it's really interesting to me to see how this game is really going to play out, where it's going to be won or lost.
If they go out of the Champions League, may that cause a crisis of confidence for Bayern Munich in the league, or do you not see that happening? Are they just too far ahead?
If they go out to Leverkusen, it could cause embarrassment in Germany. Yes, because obviously the media is all over Vincent Kompany and he's having to defend himself left, right and centre. There is a lot of big games coming up for them. Obviously the fixtures don't lie. I don't see them having much problem against Bochum, but Bochum are fighting for their life at the bottom of the table, as are Union Berlin. Difficult place to go play at the Stadion Alpenfürsterei. I believe you've probably been there. But Leverkusen...
I didn't say it like that when I did.
You did after a few beers. Listen, Leverkusen's the focus right now. Stuttgart will be a focus, but it will be a rotated team, I would imagine. You got to get your best players back healthy. Kane's an important piece of this puzzle because he's their goal scorer. Penalty kick or no penalty kick, he's a presence, and they need him up there. But they need to have their players who have been somewhat squad players this season playing better football. Sane, Gnabry, Musiala, massively important. Kingsley Coman, massively important. Goretzka coming in, it looks like he might be on his way out the door, but still massively important to their success. They've somewhat bought into Vincent Kompany, and he's not frightened to criticise them when they don't perform well. So this first leg at home against Leverkusen, huge.
Just finally, quickly before we go to break, we've talked a lot about their strength and the things for Vincent Kompany to build on. What's their biggest weakness right now?
We broke it down last week on Scoreline. Obviously defensively, it's making mistakes along that back line, switching off when you don't have possession of the ball, making sure you're compact. Defensively, I said it before, statistically it's there. They're better under Vincent Kompany. But in big games against top opponents, you cannot put out a performance like they did against Leverkusen in that most recent Bundesliga game because they got lucky in that game. Florian Wirtz missed a sitter. Obviously, there was 4 or 5 big opportunities for Leverkusen that they missed. This time around in the Champions League, if you want to be closer to the semi-finals, maybe even get to a final, these are the games you've got to take care of business. Show Leverkusen exactly how good you are and how much you've developed over the last 12 months and even since that last game in Leverkusen. I think Bayern can go through in this tie. I really do. And I think they've got a point to prove.